Hey everybody, this is Lowell, and I wanted to talk to you about my favorite musicians. And the one I have to share with you today is an interesting one. I I don't view him as a performer or a composer so much as um, a thinker and a philosopher about how music can look into the future. And he wrote in the early part of the 20th century and became a big influence in a lot of other composers' lives. And he wrote this book called New Musical Resources. And I would encourage everybody that's interested in understanding the future of what music looks like to look into this. But this is by Henry Cowell. And he really kind of expanded the thinking about what music could look like for composers. The thing that is most meaningful to me, he had a lot of different ideas in the book, but what's most meaningful to me was his understanding of polyrhythms and what could be done with polyrhythms. And that the ideas that he has in that book became foundational to a composer that really, in my estimation, set an entirely new way of thinking about music for the future. And his name was Conlon Nancarrow, and Conlon Nancarrow will be the subject of another video. But Conlon took the ideas of Henry Cowell and really implemented them as a composer. Cowell didn't really uh, compose anything or much himself, to my knowledge, but the ideas were really helpful for future composition. Um, so I wanted to talk about polyrhythm a little bit. By the way, Georgie Ligeti was another one that really looked at Conlon Nancarrow's work and was inspired by it. And the whole concept of how we think about rhythm in music. And without going into a long theoretical dissertation about it, the idea is best analogized by an experience that I had when I was visiting my uncle up in Rochester, New York. And he had this room that I slept in that had two fireplaces in it, one on one side of the room and one on the other side of the room. And both fireplaces had a mantle, and on the mantle was a clock that had a very audible, uh, ticking sound in terms of the seconds. And uh, my couch was positioned in the middle of the room, and so as I was trying to go to sleep, I heard both of those clicking clocks on either side of me, and so uh, clocks are not perfectly timed, and so you would hear there was a place where you would hear the ticks exactly come together, and then they would drift apart over, and I started counting them before I fell asleep. But I think I ended up counting, like 100. I'm just going to make this up, but something like 120 versus 123, clicks before they came back together again. Um, and that what we call that is a polyrhythm, um, where you have basically a ratio of 120 to 123, and when they come back together again is kind of the starting point of that macro polyrhythm. And it was that kind of concept that Nancarrow created in his compositions, a sense of macro polyrhythms. Um, a very tiny polyrhythm is known as 2 against 3, um, which you can do it with your hands, something like this, right? So one hand is doing 3, the other hand is doing 2, and they come together at the end of that sequence. So that that became a really interesting foundational concept for a lot of composers, not just the two that I mentioned, but a lot of composers into the future since that book came out. And so he really had a dramatic and as well as tuning. There was another section in his book, but predominantly the concept of time. And I just wanted to share that book with you again. It's Henry Cowell's New Musical Resources, and I hope you can read that book. It's really foundational to future musical exploits.